I'm Teresa Carraggio, and this is Third Paradigm. My topic today is Trick or Trump. Whose treat was this selection? And I will be entirely reading this, so you can either go to thirdparadigm.substack.com and follow along, which will also have links to all the originals. Smart and fierce Posheen Stonebrook of Diva Drops just posted, "Does anyone else feel like we just got out of an abusive marriage?" I wrote in the comments, I'm collecting posts and comments on what it is that supporters expect and want the new Trump administration to do. Hopefully with actual policy statements for what would work logistically and who would implement it. I think it would be helpful to have actual metrics that show whether we've gotten closer or further away in the next 4 years. You know me, and this is not about either or. It's about whether there is a way to achieve what we want through centralized government. Many people I respect think that it is with the right people, and that we have those people now. Just to list them, those who've brought this administration into office include J.D. Vance, Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, Miriam Adelson, RFK, Charles Eisenstein, Tucker Carlson, Ron Paul, Robert Malone, Brett Weinstein, Tulsi Gabbard, Matt Taibbi, and Russell Brand. I'm sure I'll think of more. They are either a list of the true opposition or those controlling the opposition. I think they stand or fall as a group. If it turns out that Trump corrals us into the Great Reset rather than leading us away, it means his transition team are also controlled or complicit. I think we should have metrics on that. I still think this will work out for the best. I'm just not sure what that is. The dream team or disillusionment with the whole scam. Thanks for listening. In her article, Posheen cited Mike Adams, who writes The Health Ranger, on what Trump supporters were advocating as their priorities, and I have that linked. Number 1, free the J6 political prisoners and give each $100 million. 2, put those who participated in election fraud in prison for life. 3, find and deport 10 million illegal immigrants immediately. 4, eliminate the FDA, CDC, EPA, and USDA. No more drug ads on TV. 5, eliminate the IRS and federal income tax. The government can just print money. 6, arrest and prosecute YouTube and Google execs for censorship. 7, outlaw grooming, DEI, and woke policies. Make white males a protected class. 8, prosecute everyone involved in the vaccine, hospital protocols, and lockdowns. 9, end NATO. No military, weapons, or money to Ukraine and Israel. 10, end the Fed. Stop printing money. Get government out of money and currency entirely and let crypto handle it. 11, go back to paper ballots, require voter ID and same-day election results. 12, charge ABC, NBC, CBS, and CNN with treason. Yank all FCC licenses for media outlets that deceived America. These seem a mite contradictory to me. Yank the FCC licenses of those who spread political disinformation while prosecuting those who censored you. In 4 years, they can prosecute you for censoring them. Give the J6ers $100 million while imprisoning the fraudsters who you think made Trump lose. In 4 years, give them all $100 million. Not that you'll have $100 million or even 2 bitcoins to rub together, since you'll have no more federal income tax. And you can't print money. Not that the federal government could before. Trumpsters should get out a dollar bill and look at the inscription that says Federal Reserve Note, not U.S. Treasury bill. The bankers want to get rid of cash anyway, so you're doing them a favor. Ending government control of the Fed will require no more than a name change, since the government had no power over them, even to audit. Let's call them FedEx or ex-Fed or feeding trough. How about Fred for fraudulent Fed? Now that Ron Paul has been fingered for the transition team, Trumpers might want to read "and the Fed." He was actually calling for the government to issue money instead of the bankers. But who cares about those details? This is scorched earth burning down the house. So the banks will continue to own all of the houses and land for free. Good job! Oh wait, you don't have a job unless they hire you with some of the money they've stolen through mortgages to make them more money. They've always been the real government, but now there's no pretense. So they can pay the paramilitaries to evict you from your home. China has plenty of U.S. Treasury bills to cash in on U.S. real estate. And the Fed can cash in those T-bills for Bitcoin after Trump, RFK, and Eisenstein make it the reserve currency backing the Treasury. What does that mean? The government isn't issuing Bitcoin, it's buying it from someone else. What does it buy the Bitcoin with? It seems like there are only two choices. Dollars it's borrowed from the Fed, or any gold it has left. I'm betting on the latter. Why would the Fed want dollars when it can zap them into being with a keystroke? Instead, take the gold, leave the Bitcoin. And since you're begging for that voter ID, don't you want to protect it as a chip close to your brain so it can't be stolen to impersonate you? You might get deported while Carlos cast your vote. And if they'd eat your kitty, lopping off your body parts is probably next. Too bad there's no more ICE agents or border guards. Fortunately, grooming children as sex slaves is now against the law. Remember when it wasn't? I just want to know, are there any adults in this room? The Unicorn of Hope. Philip Malika, who I quoted in my pre-election post saying Trump was ordained to win, wrote, "Things sure feel different this morning. Is it, gasp, hope?" He woke up early to find out the election results and then went back to sleep. Waking again, he wrote, "I feel relief. Don't hate. If I'm being honest, that is what I feel. Like I had been holding my breath for a long time. Not that I have any expectations that a Trump administration will be all rainbow farting unicorns, but something better than this." And he writes about what he wants the new administration to do. Looking to the future, we seem to have the greatest collection of Marvel comic superheroes ever assembled. Trump, Vance, Elon, RFK Jr., Tulsi. You have an opportunity here to do something historic. Don't screw it up. End the war in Ukraine. Tell Israel to get over themselves and grow up. Partner with Russia and China. Enough with the saber-rattling and Death Eaters. America first, not an afterthought. Leverage with BRICS and become the America that the rest of the world looks to with fear and awe. Only lose the fear. It's not necessary. And NATO and the Fed. And last but not least, expose the Pentagon as the true power center of the U.S. and bring an end to it. We will have your back. Reel in Congress and remind them of their job. Philip's list is a far cry from rainbow farting unicorns and $100 million reparations for J6ers. It's refreshing to see that number 9 of ending funding for Israel and Ukraine got moved up to number 1 on his list. All of Philip's historic opportunities are worthy goals. But is there a matzo ball's chance in hell that Trump will end funding for Israel? I wrote to Philip, I don't want to rain on your relief parade, Philip, but is it ever good when the one ordained to win actually does? I guess I was taking your statement about being ordained as not by God, but by the puppet masters. I think the purpose of Trump's second term will be for more people to give up on the Marvel superheroes. So I hope you'll keep those excellent goals in mind and hold him to account for them, not the excuses that were made for him last term. Oh, he appointed the wrong guys, the deep state wouldn't let him do what he wanted. He is in on the con, in my opinion. He certainly has all the alt-right or psi operators, depending on your view, on his side. So it will be a true test of whether he's controlling the opposition or is the opposition. But we'll see how it plays out, and it will turn out for the best. At least that's what my intuition is telling me. Both sides now. On Un's review, more aspirations and wet blanket reservations have been expressed. In voting is a waste of time, or is it? Ambrose Kane wrote, have you noticed as well that those who mock voting as futile with expressions such as vote harder rarely, if ever, provide any practical alternatives? They are largely whiners and complainers, offering little more than verbal tantrums. One wonders whose side they are on. Throwing up our hands and giving up is precisely what our enemies would want. The enemies of Trump threw everything they could at him, neither endless lawfare, constant threats of imprisonment, millions of dollars in government fines, and even 2 assassination attempts were sufficient in preventing him from winning the election. This occurred not because enough gullible citizens believed that voting was a waste of time, but because reasonable people were discerning enough to realize they could destroy the left's political efforts simply by casting a vote for Trump. And what does Ambrose expect this vote to do? He writes, under Trump, there's a real possibility that the economy will significantly improve. Under Trump, there's a greater likelihood that illegal immigrants will be returned to their country of origin. Free speech, particularly the speech of white racialists and political dissidents, has a greater chance of surviving with Trump in office. If Elon Musk ends up playing an important role in Trump's cabinet, there is even more reason to think that our speech will be safeguarded. Under Trump, no more unnecessary wars are a real possibility. Trump already knows just how wasteful and stupid funding the Ukraine war has been. And I'm inclined to think that he will not go so easily along with Benjamin Netanyahu's efforts to force the U.S. into a proxy war against Iran. With informed and sobering influences, such as Tucker Carlson and a host of others who are tired of America's warmongering, it seems unlikely that Trump will be so easily manipulated. Beware the Tony Soprano wannabe. The ever-entertaining Pepe Escobar has written Trumpquake. He writes, Trumpquake is all set to hang Ukraine on Europe's neck like a larger-than-life albatross. The shorthand, exit American money financing the born-to-lose Project Ukraine. And then he talks about Germany having that burden. As for the gullible, Brussels-led EU, they will pay the heavy load on weaponizing rump Ukraine, while accepting wave after wave of new refugees and saying goodbye to any of their funds already invested in that humongous black hole. Trumpquake, if taken at face value, is bound to further weaponize the U.S. dollar. Trump has threatened on the record to blacklist any nation that uses other currencies for international trade. That will accelerate the testing of all models in the BRICS lab, leading towards a multi-layered alternative trade settlement system. BRICS and the global majority also know that Trump, in fact, signed off on Nord Stream sanctions when he referred recently to killing Nord Stream. And they also know he did less than zero during Trump 1.0 to find a solution for the proxy war in Ukraine. Now we come to the clincher. Trump personally destroyed the Iran nuclear deal, brokered by the P5+1, the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council plus Germany. Moscow and Beijing know perfectly well how this led to further destabilization of the whole of West Asia, in conjunction to the Trump-ordered assassination of Jen Soleimani, which started what I termed the Raging 20s. Last but not least, Trump brokered the bombastically named Deal of the Century, the Abraham Accords, which, if implemented, will forever bury any possibility of an Israel-Palestine two-state solution. All that brings us to a supremely nefarious character, Tony Soprano wannabe Mike Pompeo, who is a serious candidate to become head of the Pentagon. That would spell major trouble ahead. Pompeo was CIA Director and Secretary of State under Trump 1.0. He is an uber hawk on Russia, China, and especially Iran. Arguably, the pressing question from now on is whether Trump, whose life was spared by God in his own interpretation, does what is expected of him by his uber-wealthy donors, appoints Pompeo and similar gangsters for key posts, and invests in Israel's war against Iran and the axis of resistance. If that's the case, he won't have to worry about another failed sniper. But if he really tries to run his own independent game, there's no question he will be a dead man walking. And then, in the kosher candidate, Wyatt Peterson goes into detail on who's funding Trump and what they expect. Although 79% of liberal Jews voted for Kamala, the Zionist money was on Trump in the hundreds of millions. He writes, among his many newfound supporters is Silicon Valley's Jacob Hellberg, a lifelong Democrat. Hellberg is a senior advisor to Alex Karp, the Jewish CEO of Palantir Technology, and was instrumental in the passage of the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary-Controlled Applications Act, legislation which forced the sale of social media platform TikTok, due in all actuality to its anti-Israel bias. Palantir, founded by Karp and J.D. Vance's political mentor, Peter Thiel, has very close ties to the State of Israel and has provided the Israeli Defense Forces with surveillance systems used to spy on Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza, as well as unsuspecting people around the world. Speaking to an audience of the Future Investment Initiative Institute in early 2024, Karp admitted that Palantir's technology was responsible for suppressing far-right political movements in Europe. He said, in all modesty, if they were not stopped, you would have a very different political reality in the West. And that's just a fact. The only reason someone's not goose-stepping between you and me is my product. Say thank you. Wyatt concludes, the wealthy individuals who have cozied up to Trump over the past 12 months are single-issue voters, and that issue is Israel. But for a single-issue voter on the other side, there was no one to vote for. If Kennedy had taken an ethical position on ending funding for Israel, I believe he'd be the incumbent. All the pieces are locking together in a way that seems cut to size. I may be wrong. One thing is clear that surprised me. Republican voters have become the anti-war party. On every list, their expectations for Trump included defunding Ukraine and Israel. #NoPompeo is the number 3 trending hashtag. It should make Democrats rethink their priorities, that they're no longer the party of peace. Whether or not Trump delivers, it mattered to Republicans, while Democrats seem oblivious. These are the changes I expect from Trump in the areas that I care about. He will drop Ukraine like a hot potato as planned. Focus support on Israel. He will end censorship as Trump declared he will for lawful speech, but rule anti-Semitism as unlawful as support for terrorist organizations. He will keep the bankers owning our lives and labor by issuing the money as mortgages. The FRED and the fraud will continue. I don't begrudge anyone their Trump euphoria. It's been a rough 4 years. This is their Obama golden moment. I just want to make them a deal. If things don't go as you hoped, let's not do this again. You have your dream team all in one place, a Republican Senate, a Republican House, a Supreme Court in your court, just like Obama had in reverse in 2010. Let this be the final test of whether electoral politics can get you what you want. If you want control over your own life, your own home, your own community, and your own ethics, they can't make that happen, but we can. Andrew Kane inquired, "Have you noticed as well that those who mock voting as futile rarely as ever provide any practical alternatives? They are whiners and complainers offering little more than verbal tantrums." This is clearly not me. We're at the turning point of the 2020 decade, the most tumultuous shift of my lifetime. We may argue over who we want, but no one knows what they want them to do. There are no practical alternatives being put forward, no understanding of how to disperse the FRED, sidestep the IRS, decentralize the government agencies. If Trump was our opportunity for change, it would be wasted. Like a baby born prematurely, it would die before it was developed. We need more womb time, woman time, to gestate and fully form our demands, our ideals, our desires. In How to Dismantle an Empire, I lay the foundation for a new economy. I imagine the U.S. as 100 bioregions of 24 commonwealths, with 9 villages of 9 hamlets comprised of 9 neighborhoods. Dunbar's magic number in 5 steps. Now take your neighborhood and fill it with desire. What do you want in your wildest dreams? What are you hankering after in your hamlet? What's your vision for your village? You can have whatever is possible without taking it away from something else. Let's use this next 4 years to do that. For more, I suggest two that blend metaphysics and geopolitics from the early days of Ukraine. This is Nord Streams and the Bagel of Doom, and this is Theodicy, Hegemony, and Michael Hudson on Ukraine, looking at how it was the 3rd time Germany had been defeated in a century, and now with the Albatross, I think we're up to 4. Thank you for listening.